kicking off this weekend, we're gonna start with the league leaders at them again. Come on. We're traveling to a Leicester side that did our side a favor against Tottenham in a 4-1 victory. And maybe they can do us another favor by giving us the 4 goals this time. You know what I'm saying? As we did in the reverse fixture. Do Leicester stand a chance here against what is looking like the best Arsenal side in just about 20 years?
I mean, you watched the game against United. They played well. They played very well. Although, is that enough for me to say they could probably get a result here against Arsenal? I agree with you. They were very unlucky on Sunday. And if Arsenal aren't careful, like how they weren't in the first half against Villa, right? It was really the second half that really carried them to the win, and deservedly so. I think the goals would have come eventually, and it did very late. But you look at this Leicester side, and they're confident. That confidence was shut down a little bit on Sunday, but I think everybody has one of those games where you're playing very well, but you're just when you're not taking those chances, especially against the big side. And I hope this doesn't or that loss didn't shoot down their confidence too much because I'm relying on them to at least nick a draw here.
Well, I want to ask about their game style here, their game strategy coming up against the big teams, as you say. I saw a picture recently on social media, and it was comparing how Leicester set up against a Manchester City and how they set up against Man United. And I know the point of this post was really to kind of tease and mock Manu a bit, but it's a genuine question raised, right? Are Leicester setting up, or I should say, will they set up in a similar fashion that they did against City, which was a low block, sit back, everybody behind the ball, defend? Are they gonna set up in that type of way against Arsenal, or are they going to continue trying to be positive and play how they played against Man United, which was a high line, squeeze, press, and in turn creating chances?
Well, there's always. I know that clip you sent me. I know, I saw it. I think you were looking at. Although I do agree to a certain extent that people don't, or I should say, teams or managers don't pay as much. I'll say respect towards they do against us compared to the likes of City and maybe the season towards Arsenal. But again, that's just one phase of play that you saw from that clip, and mainly the goals really came from their mistakes. And you could say that mistakes was it caused by uh, the teams pressing very well. In that Leicester game, I wouldn't say so. I mean, that was just a stray pass from about fast that it found the right person in the right place at the right time. Leicester set up very confidently against Tottenham too, and this was at King Power, right? And they were unlucky to go down with a scrappy goal, but then they came back to win, to score 4 on them. It was a real thumping. But you have to say Tottenham and United are different from Arsenal, and Arsenal will want to take the game to Leicester, more so than definitely Tottenham, but more so than we would have done at King Power. So I would, if I had to bet on it, I would definitely say Leicester are gonna try to hit you on the counter because they looked very dangerous on the counter, even against us. And they have strength. Tete looks good on the right wing, the new signing. Harvey Barnes, he has to be a little bit more clinical, but he's getting into good areas. James Madison, I know he was a bit injured. He wasn't having the best of his season, but he's really come on in recent weeks. And Ian Nacho as well. He's still, I mean, at his age, he's still raw. There was a moment in the game where the ball was third to him, and I know what you know what I'm talking about. He took a touch way outside. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to get the ball away from the defender that was running towards him, but that touch was just took him way outside, way up. Uh, Too much of an angle that was too tight that just closed his shot angle for him. But he's in form as well. So and I have questions about his finishing, but I think his overall link up play is decent for a striker. I mean, he came through the City ranks. I know he was let go by Pep Guardiola because he wasn't good enough, but I think at this stage he can do a job. So yeah, I can certainly see Leicester setting up to be to hit you on the counter. And will Partey be back fit for this game? We'll see. I mean, even if he is, will it be 100%? So we'll see. But I think Leicester will provide more threat on the counter than Villa did last week.
Well, that's a question I want to ask. What do Arsenal have to do from their perspective in order to ensure a victory and continue the momentum that we've started to build back against Villa?
You got to stop conceding goals now. You've been conceding, you've been shipping in goals, two against us, one against. I know. Okay, I'm not going to bring up the Brentford game, but against Everton set piece, three against City, two against Villa. That's not a title winner's defense, if I may say. I mean, now you're having to score two, three, four goals, and especially you go back in the beginning of the season, you were keeping clean sheets away from home almost every game, right? So, and that was a different story at home, but this time you're going away from home, and I think you need to get that defensive solidity back. It's been, you could say that it's been coming with the dip in form from Partey. And that I think that tells you how, like we talked about, how important he is to this Arsenal side. But yeah, defensively needs to be shored up because right now I can easily see Leicester scoring at least once. Right, I wouldn't be too confident on Arsenal keeping a clean sheet at this moment in time. But it's about whether Arsenal have enough of a firepower, and they've showed it at Villa, right? And I still have my doubts over Danny Ward. I mean, I don't know if you saw him what he was doing for Rashford's goal. I think he thought he was offside, and I can understand what he was doing, but the guy just came out and he was I don't know what he was acting like a clown, right? So it's I mean he can make some saves. He made some saves against us too, but yeah, defensively needs to be better. I'll say that for both sides, for Leicester and Arsenal too.
Yeah, Arsenal definitely going to have to shore things up. I mean, that honestly is probably, as you said, a big part of it is down to Partey missing through injury. But that's another question that kind of raised from that. Jorginho has come in and slotted in quite admirably. The general consensus is that as well, at least as far as what I have seen. But on top of that, my own opinion on the matter is that he did come in and step in admirably. Do you feel like him coming in this match is going to provide that much needed kind of, I guess, band-aid solution, if you will, for the party for Partey missing?
I think you're gonna need more than Jorginho this game. I just I know he's done okay, but I don't see him operating as a single pivot, and I can't see that against. I, I mean, yes, there are other people, other players, other midfield players that will be covering for him, right, in the midfield, but I'm a little bit wary of him being the sole guy in the middle, and I, that's why I feel that there's something for Leicester on the counter this game because I saw it fresh last week, and I know you saw it too fresh last week. We were missing Casemiro with Fred and Sabitzer in the middle. There was a lot of gaps through the middle, I'll say. And is Jorginho enough to cover that? He's gonna need a lot of help from his teammates, likes of Zinchenko. It's gonna restrict Xhaka too, going up. So it'll be tough, but he's a smart guy. He'll know what to do. Arteta looks like a smart guy. He'll know how to get the best out of all his players. So we'll just have to see.
Yep, moving on to the title challengers as well. In the mix of it, Manchester City, they are traveling to Bournemouth in a match that you would think would be pretty academic. A 3 points for City. However, based on last weekend's result and with Haaland and his missed chances, are we going to be, I don't want to say shocked, but is it going to be that crazy now to see a repeat upset City twice in a row, 2 weekends in a row?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, before, I guess, before last week even, we were usually previewing City games and the results, reviewing the results, and this is the team we think of, oh, this is just academic. We don't need to talk much about this team. They're probably going to thrash them, score 4 or 5 easily. And that just hasn't been the case, right? It's just, I mean, it should have been against Forest, but they didn't. Something was off. I mean, Keylor Navas made some good saves too, but even you mentioned Holland looked off in that one chance that he got 2 or 3 knocks at it. And I watched them in the midweek in the Champions League, obviously. This is not the City that we're used to seeing. There's no way this is a City that we would have piped them for the title, right? Long before the season started, or I should say long before it gets to April, the run in for the season. And it's just not it. And would I be surprised if they dropped again 2 points or even 3 points here? I'll be shocked. I'm gonna say I'll be shocked because it's against Bournemouth. Because Bournemouth, they're missing the firepower. Right? I don't think they've scored more than once in the past 3 games. But I mean, I think most people would agree that something feels off about City. And you mentioned it last week in the review. Is it could be adjusting? I don't know if that's what it is really. I mean, it could be, but I just yeah, I don't know.
It made me raise a question recently. I remember at the start of the season when we were saying, yo, is Haaland really and truly the signing of the season? Is he? And everybody was like, yeah, 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 what you mean? And then we were a bit skeptical at first. However, then first few games came around and we said, yo, we held our hands up and we said, yo, we're wrong. But then no, is the narrative shifting back to Haaland being the flop of the season?
No, okay. Flop of the season is
Nah, but for real though, obviously not flop of the season, but being for real though, did we overestimate Haaland's impact on City?
that I mean that's a tough question because even when we said that he might struggle, we did say he's gonna score goals, right? We didn't say that in a way where he's gonna struggle to score goals. But I mean, I sound very hypocritical and counterintuitive because goals are what wins your games, right? And for us to say Haaland's bringing in the goals, but he's not bringing in the goods, it doesn't necessarily make sense because goals usually translate to goods. And I think on that front, we have to look back to Pep Guardiola's teams in the past. I know he had Lewandowski at Bayern, and of course, and I don't want to sound like I'm looking down on the German league, but I just don't think it compares to the Premier League in terms of the intensity, the level of all the teams involved. And maybe that's not a good argument to bring up here because Haaland's scoring even more goals here than he was in Germany.
For real.
But you can go back. I mean, he failed to win the Champions League ultimately, right? That was what was needed for Bayern. He came into a treble winning side in Bayern, and he added Lewandowski to that, and he still failed to win the Champions League. In Barcelona, he brought in Ibrahimovic, and we know how that went. I guess that was more so down to their egos clashing, but he's just I don't think he was ever that successful with a traditional striker like that. And we see his teams a lot more fluid when he had the likes of David Villa, if you remember him in that Barca's the season. I guess I mean Samuel Eto'o is a great striker, of course, but I just look at him a bit differently than I do Ibrahimovic, Holland, or even Lewandowski. They're more, they're more
Classic nines.
right. They're the classic number nines, whereas Eto'o, Villa, sorry, David Villa, they're more of a should I say modern number nines, who can do a bit more than just a just different styles. I'll just put it at that. And maybe, I mean, this is something that needs to be looked into, perhaps, because Holland is obviously a Champions League signing. We know that because Premier League they were dominating already, and Pep Guardiola must have been thinking there, saying, if I can add Holland to this, then I can get over that last hurdle. And we see them in crucial moments against Chelsea in the final. They just couldn't score one goal. Against Real Madrid in the semifinals last year, they conceded two in the last minute and they couldn't go again. They couldn't score. So this is definitely more of a Champions League signing. And maybe uh, would he even deliver in the Champions League? Like off the evidence of what we're seeing so far, maybe not.
Yet again, and I want to kind of shift the perspective here because you spoke a lot about Pep Guardiola and his style and his systems. However, I don't want to boil this down to just him. I want to highlight other examples where we've seen a player who tends to score goals and get those numbers up. They score a lot of goals, but I think it's just a telling sign that the collective as a team is better than just the individual performing and getting his own individual numbers up. And we've seen that with Aubameyang at Arsenal. He was scoring the goals, making it happen, looking at the star player. But then at the end of the day, we realize the toxicity within that side. The same with over at year ends. Ronaldo,
Yeah.
first season back, was scoring bare goals, and everybody's like, yo, it's just Ronaldo. Ronaldo is doing everything. Manu suck. It's only Ronaldo. He's carrying the side. Only to realize it's actually the reverse. So are we seeing kind of a similar impact with Haaland here at City? It could be either or, right? It could be that ego kind of thing. It could be a style thing. It could be a Pep thing. I want to hear some comments in the comment section right now about what you think is going on over at City. And even if Haaland is the issue at the end of the day, because you may think that that's not the case. So you guys can tell us why. But to a side that definitely has some big issues going on, they just took another thumping midweek in the Champions League to Real Madrid. It's over. They're traveling to Crystal Palace. Can Patrick Vieira bust one on them?
I really, really hope so. I really, really do. I just, I mean, I was shocked when they went 2-0 up. This is not the Premier League. I know this is the Champions League, but when they went 2-0 up, I looked at, I mean, they showed Ancelotti's face, right? I think he was drinking coffee or he was drinking something and he looked calm. And I was like, how can you be this calm? You're down 2-0 against a Finnish Liverpool side. And that's the reason why he was so calm because they actually finished. He gave them a 2-goal head start and they still couldn't do anything about it. That is more down to, I think, Real Madrid's clinical. I mean, they have world-class players up top. Vinicius, Benzema, Rodrigo maybe not up there, but Rodrigo done well enough to create havoc, cause havoc, and especially in the midfield. Luka Modric, again, he was applauded by even Liverpool fans when he was going off. And I think Fabinho, I mentioned this briefly in the previous episodes. There's claims of his age fraud just because of how heavily he's how sharply and how quickly he's fallen off. I mean, just look at the guy's face. How can you tell me the guy's not 30? The guy looks at least 45 to me. But but either way, I mean, they have this young gun coming in by Chetic. I know how this feels because we did this last year with Anthony Langa. We did when he came on, he scored a few goals. He was running around a lot, and we were praising him, saying, "Oh, this guy gets it. This guy has a bright future. Got to keep his head down and keep going at it." Look where he's at. The guy can't even get. He can only get garbage time minutes now, and that's how I feel about Cetic. There's a lot of praises about him, and of course, comparing anybody to Modric is not fair, you could say, but I mean, the guy got schooled along with the rest of the midfield. I just, I don't see what's special about the guy. Like, there's nothing that wows me, I'll say. Like, if you remember, I mean, this is going way back, but when I saw Jack Wilshere, the guy wowed me, right? I mean, the guy at such a young age, he was everybody could see he was good. Like, Cetic seems to me to he just runs around. But he's not the answer to the Liverpool problems. I'll say that. And the way that the fans and the media are making him out to be, as if he's the next great thing coming out to come out of Liverpool, he's not. And they're gonna have serious trouble going into the game against Palace because Palace can make it a battle in the midfield. They have, I mean, Doucouré, they've brought in. I don't think he's that great anyway, but he can make it a very physical game, right? I mean, even Schlupp can slot in there. It's just I can't even see Palace dominating Liverpool this game in the midfield. That's how bad of a shape the midfield of Liverpool are in. We talk a lot about the defense, and I think they all go hand in hand. Defense is struggling because they don't have the protection anymore from the midfield. And if only Palace weren't in such horrendous form, they can't seem to get any results at the moment. They can't seem to hold on to leads. If once they go a goal or two down, it's very hard for them to come back. Although they do sometimes, but it's just they can't win any games. And I think could that change against Liverpool? Maybe, and I hope so because if you remember I think it was 2 years ago, Liverpool thrashed Palace 7-0 at Selhurst Park. Time for revenge.
Yeah, now would be the time to get it with Liverpool in such bad form. I feel like this is the time for, one of those upsets, those, yo, I can't believe they haven't won here in so long. Bang, there's the win right there. You know that's coming. You know that they're due one. But other than just the midfield battle that you pointed out, are there any personnel key watches, really, like players that you think, all right, this is a key person to look out for?
I mean, on the Liverpool side, I would look at the two new signings, Darwin Núñez and Gakpo. They both scored, I think, 2 games in a row now. And or no, sorry, Gakpo didn't score, but Núñez scored 2 games in a row. Gakpo can make it a very physical game against the right back. I think it'll be Nathaniel Klein. It should be, I believe. I'll be looking out for those two guys, seeing if this is some kind of form that they're getting onto, or if it was just a fluke. Because I mean, it was a good finish by Núñez in the midweek, right against Real Madrid. On the Palace side, I don't know who's going to start as striker. I don't think Zaha will be fit for this game still. I think we're looking at either Mateta or Edouard. It's probably going to be Mateta, but Mateta could do numbers on whoever starts in the Liverpool defense right now.
Boy, and that is just going to be a beautiful sign if we do see that. But you guys let us know in the comments what you think the result is going to be, and let us know if you have any key players that you want us to look out for in this one. Match of the weekend, though, it is a London derby. I feel like Tottenham are like always in a London derby, it feels like. Like honestly. But anyway, they're in a London derby against Chelsea. So this is gonna be a big one. Who do you see coming out with the points, or do you think is gonna be shared?
I think it's going to be shared. It's
Classic, a 2-2 or some shit like that.
just like we saw earlier in the season, right? Just Chelsea dominate the game, and I don't know if they will this game, to be honest, because the they're just not in great form at the moment. But I want to switch a little bit on to the manager, Graham Potter. There's been a lot said about within the fans, especially how I mean there have been some decisions that went against Chelsea's way. I think the one I can think of is the one against West Ham, I believe. There was a handball in the box by Suchek, if I remember correctly. Should have been a penalty, was never reviewed because he was apparently falling down, and that's natural. But the guys come out and was very calm. Apparently, he did not complain. He didn't. So he basically he didn't yell, he didn't scream, he didn't get angry, right? And Chelsea fans are frustrated that okay, I get it. I can see how it seems like the manager is kind of just taking it. You know, it doesn't feel like he's stamping any authority like he would expect from um, uh, Sir Alex Ferguson or maybe even Jurgen Klopp, although that's a bit more whiny. I mean, what do you think about that? That do managers always, especially of a big club, right? Do they always have to come out and be angry after a bad performance or a bad referee performance? Like, I can see where they're coming from, but for them to say, "Oh, that's not why he's fit to become a manager of Chelsea," I think that's a bit of nonsense, really.
Well, that's a good point because you know I read somewhere that there's an importance for your manager to one motivate your players while they're on the field, obviously, and that's a huge role of theirs. It's something that I've seen, from personal experience. I've seen complaints towards even the coach of Jamaica, the manager of Jamaica was no seriously though, but that's an important thing was that he wasn't out there motivating his players out on the touchline, and apparently it creates. And the reason I say apparently is because I haven't done my own research on it. This is just what I've read and seen or heard, that it actually makes that really a significant difference. And I'm not surprised. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw Klopp do well, as he said, why we see Pep do well, because he's always doing that, why we see Arteta doing well now, is that level of motivation. Now, the second part comes with it. And again, we see this from those three managers that I named just now that were successful, is the aspect of defending your team in those crucial moments, right? So I'm sure what you're talking about, where people where people may criticize that, will come out and say, "Oh, that's you're not defending your team. You're letting it go easily." But my question with that now is, do we not accept that people have different management styles, right? So we've seen
And
like even Carlo Ancelotti, he's not necessarily that the type to get wild at that, but he's respected as a big manager, right?
yeah, I mean that's exactly what I'm getting at because you don't always have to come out firing against the officials, against the media. And I guess it's all part of what you want to portray as a manager, right? And I've read reports he does do all these things with his players. He does scream at them. He does get mad at them. He does those, and that doesn't always mean you're motivating them or you're getting your messages across. There are many different ways to get your messages across, and I just don't really buy that. Uh, I think he's been poor. There's no denying that. But for them to latch onto that part of his management aspect, I just think a bit forced, if that's the right word. And interestingly enough, I saw a clip of them prior to the Southampton game. Before they walk out the tunnel, there was a video clip of Aspilicueta. I mean, he's the captain of the club, right? He's doing the traditional, all right, lads, come on, let's go. I mean, he's encouraging the players, right? And as they're running onto the pitch, I thought it was very odd that nobody responded to him. Normally, you would see at least one or two players, right, who would respond in a manner where uh, it, it, to arouse the players, to get the players up for the game. And I don't know if you got to see this clip, but there was nobody responding to him. And I mean, they went onto the pitch, and I just I can't see how that's happening at Chelsea right now. And I mean, would I even put all that down to the manager? Not really, because like I said, that's a side that's just been organized 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. I just something's off at Chelsea, and it's um it's it's very odd.
Well, here's my take. I agree with you that there's different management styles and you don't necessarily have to come out all guns blazing. And I think that the reason that this criticism is happening to Graham Potter is just based on their results. It's just based on their form. Results speak. If you're winning, people are and fans are on the internet are gonna find everything to praise you for. And when you're
Yeah.
losing, they're gonna find everything to criticize you for. As soon as Arsenal lost or drop points against Brentford, is it a turn? Are we turning now? Every time. It's just natural. Results are gonna speak.
Yeah, I mean, he was the darling of the media 6 months ago, and the fans, not just the media. So, but yeah, I can only see a draw happening here, which is gonna be
Hopefully that's the case.
yeah, I mean, which is gonna be another dagger to Graham Potter because he needs a win. He's still winless since
I
the
would not
since
mind a win for him, to be honest.
well, I wouldn't either, but I personally don't see that happening. And Tottenham, I know they're in fourth right now by virtue of having played a game more than Newcastle, and both their top four competitors are in Carabao Cup final today, almost a Europa League final. But uh, Newcastle going up against us in the final, so I, I don't see Tottenham making too much of the ground up while both of their competitors are not involved in the Premier League action this weekend.
You guys let us know what you think is gonna be the result in this match here.
Yeah, and before we leave this episode, I know we're going to be releasing this on Friday, probably after the draw has already happened. But both your side and my side are the draw tomorrow for the Europa League round of 16. It's weird because I guess we went through a punishment of finishing second and having to play against the Champions League dropouts. But now you look at the sides that you could potentially face, and it looks okay. On paper, I think you could beat all of those teams, but at least on paper, it looks more daunting than the teams that we could potentially face. So, of course, our teams can't play each other because we're from England. The teams that you can face possibly are Juventus, Sporting Lisbon, both from the Champions League dropouts, Shakhtar Donetsk, Leverkusen, again, another Champions League dropout, Seville, Champions League dropout, Roma, and Union Berlin.
Well, all I have to say to that is bring it on. Whoever you send us, who are gonna shell them.
And, and
Arsenal.
and to that front, I'm gonna say it right now. I know a lot of people think that these draws are fixed. I'm personally one of them. I think some of it is fixed. I'm calling it right now. You're either getting Juventus or Roma. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah, that's what somebody mentioned to me too. They feel like we're gonna get Juventus. I personally am not worrying about it. I don't want to even stress that concept until I see the draw happen. I'm not gonna stress it.
No, I think no, like I said, you're beating every single one of these teams on the list. And I'll just say that the list of the teams that we could potentially face is Union SG from Belgium, I think, Freiburg from Germany, Ferencváros from Hungary, if I remember correctly, Feyenoord, Betis, Sociedad, and Fenerbahce.
So say that sound like the difficult one.
And we played them in the group, so I don't know if that rule is still in place, but you know what I mean. Like the level of teams, it's just a bit lower than the teams that you could potentially face. But we'll see if my predictions come true. We'll find out tomorrow. So
If they do, then we have a real scandal going on for real. You guys let us know if you think that there's some, fixed draw going on or something. Nah, joke. But regardless, let us know if who you think how you think the draw is gonna end up. What you think is gonna be the draw of the next round. And when the draw happens, let us know what you think is going to be the highlight match to really look at.
but yeah, that'll be it for today's episode.